What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mika Says Sukasa. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host, Niko House. Today, I have with me a very, very special guest. Most of you all by now know her. She's an advocate for sexual assault victims. She's an author who just came out with a new book. Or excuse me, is it tomorrow it's dropping or today? Or is it already out?
It's been out since October.
It's been out since October. So it's called Left Out. Definitely go check that out. And she has just been speaking out on behalf of sexual assault victims, present and past, probably more than anyone else has on the most consistent basis that anybody else has. I would like everyone to welcome to the show, Tara Reade. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be on.
So I guess my first question would be, so we're going to ask, why hasn't Cuomo been forced to resign yet? But he has. So I guess my first question is, if we're going to maintain the same standard, shouldn't somebody else be resigning too?
Absolutely. But there needs to be an investigation first, which there has never been. So it was not fully litigated, as Jen Psaki, his, the White House speaker, tried to say, that the White House press secretary had tried to say. In fact, it's never even been investigated, much less litigated. Back to Cuomo, though, this day is for the Cuomo survivors, Lindsey Boylan, Charlotte Bennett, and the others who came forward under a lot of threats of intimidation and being discredited, similar to what I went through, and what I would say is that, they were very brave to stick in there, and I'm glad that they were able to have their voices heard. And so they may know some measure of justice. I don't know whether I'll have that same peace that they may know today, but it looks like justice will be moving forward. And there's even a criminal, I think, investigation now into Cuomo.
How do you think the criminal investigation should turn out? Because, ideally, what I think we would like to see is that the political factor should be completely separate from the criminal investigation, because you or I would not get, that benefit. So how do you think the criminal investigation will turn out, or how would you like to see it proceed?
Well, I think that if an investigator would look at whether he's crossed the line with sexual assault and, that state standards. So that's up to the investigator and what happens with the criminal investigation. But, I hope that there's justice. I hope that his behavior and being corrected for what he did, he's still denying all the allegations, but I hope he's held accountable. And one way to do that, one mechanism, is a criminal investigation and consequences from that. I am surprised that he went under the bus this quickly. I thought they were going to draw it out a little bit longer or try to ignore it and let it get out of the press. But I think the Time's Up apparatus falling all around them, and being that Cuomo was trying to use powerful women to protect his image, and that's crumbled. So without the image of being this champion for women's rights, like he was touted to be, he's now vulnerable to, being subject to scrutiny, which he should be.
Yeah. Now, I feel like what has not been discussed a lot since the resignation, even a little bit before, is Chris Cuomo's part in protecting someone who was just forced to resign. Do you feel like there should be any ramifications for Chris Cuomo as far as, CNN maybe forcing him to resign or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the media collusion is all part and parcel of this. So you have Time's Up, that was basically a structure, almost like a catch and kill for powerful predatory Democrats. So you had these powerful women that not only did not protect women, but they actually went out of their way to harm them, like they were trying to discredit Lindsey Boylan, and that was found. Part of that investigation also revealed CNN was colluding with Cuomo staffers. That includes Chris Cuomo. So there needs to be some harsh consequences. When journalists start participating in the political process, be it they journalists or political commentators, you can't get truth out to the people. It's going to end up just being propaganda for one or the other arm of the political power structure, and that's not good. You're suppressing the truth from the people.
Yeah, I think that we all kind of are familiar with the term, court of public, or the phrase court of public opinion. Right. And there is a reason that term seems to hold true more often than not. And it's kind of because of how powerful the media can be. The media could have been an ally to these women. They could have been an ally to you during this election. One of the things that kind of made me not ever want to participate in the political process again was because how they threw you under the bus after we witnessed, this quote unquote Me Too movement for an entire 2 years, and no one said anything about it. In fact, there were some politicians who even lied about where you stand in the election and who you plan on voting for or not voting for. That turned me off. And do you think that a lot of these women feel, I don't know if you want to say vindicated, because I know like with sexual assault, you can never really feel vindicated, but do you feel like they have found some semblance of justice? And do you feel that they could potentially be punished because we've seen Cuomo held to at least some standard of accountability?
Well, as far as the Cuomo survivors, I'm hoping that they have some peace today, knowing that their voices were finally heard, like they broke through the noise. I haven't broken through the noise, right? My voice is still not heard. New York Times dropped a piece yesterday saying that, comparing the two, saying Cuomo's behavior towards women was, predatory, or like, that he was assaulted is the word they used. And Biden's was friendly. Well, I didn't find it friendly. He assaulted me and he harassed me before that. So no, I mean, and other 7 women came forward. And then if you count the 8th of the Secret Service agent who had said something and put something, I guess, on record. And then you have other women that have been silenced because they've watched what's happened to me.
So that actually brings me to your book, because you detailed this in your book, Left Out When the Truth Doesn't Fit In. And it's basically about the aftermath of you just telling your story, and probably the most detailed account of sexual assault that we heard during the election. Can you just kind of detail that and the aftermath that came from you just telling your truth at a time where we were told by the Democratic Party that women should be supported when they come out?
Well, I mean, I talked about one of my first interviews being with the Washington Post and how graphic, the language that she used with me was, and trying to imply that I got some sort of pleasure from Biden when it happened. And it was a weird, convoluted, ugly interview that ended with me crying in the bathroom, kind of, being nauseous because it was that graphic. And you can read about it in the book because I talk about it, exactly what she said to me. What I found is that rather than the reporters actually coming to me for wanting truth, they seem to be wanting some way to discredit me. Something, did I have a bounce check, or did I lie about my education, or did I, they were looking for anything because there wasn't anything obvious. Because the fact was, I was a staffer in 1993 working for Joe Biden, and I was sexually harassed and assaulted. And they didn't want to deal with that fact. So the distraction was to discredit me. It was just a tactic. And, there was this, at the same time going on, there was this mindset that Trump could not be president. He would be the worst thing to ever happen to our planet, right? If Trump was president again. So even if it meant dismissing me and my case, then we had to do that. And then dismissing any of the other survivors, So
I just distinctively remember how I was like, are we kidding me right now? I thought the whole reason we wanted Trump out, one of the main reasons, was because of his sexual predatory past. And, that's why we didn't want Kavanaugh to be, U.S. Supreme Court justice, allegedly because of his sexual predatory past. But the moment that a Democrat is next up in line, and even during the election, right, they said Mike Bloomberg in his comments that he made the women sign NDAs for, they said that he, because of his sexually predatory past, shouldn't be president. But the moment they got the guy in that it seemed like the Democratic Party wanted and the establishment overall wanted, all of a sudden the stories like yours no longer mattered. So it was a very tough thing to sit through if you were paying attention to that.
And I think too, what you're saying is absolutely right. And then now the trajectory is that there's going to be some accountability held with Cuomo. Why he's not being held accountable for the nursing home where thousands of people died. And the DOJ dropped that case. I don't understand why that investigation was dropped.
They dropped the case.
Was very serious. Yes, there's no investigation that I know of. The last I heard, it was dropped. Maybe there'll be some igniting of it because of his resignation, and they'll start looking into it. But he was responsible for thousands of people dying while simultaneously being hailed as a hero by the corporate media. And this is where we need separation of media from state. Like it doesn't need to be combined. And this is why, because what happens is you get this will to power to protect the power, and then the truth is not allowed to come through to our citizens. And so corrupt behavior is not only, allowed, but it's rewarded.
Yeah, and that's what it's looking like. Now, one of the people who came out and supported you immediately when you decided to tell your story was Rose McGowan. Can you go ahead and detail your relationship and how you all have kind of been support for each other throughout these times? I know both of y'all have had similar situations where basically y'all were silenced for coming out and telling your truth.
Well, Rose McGowan has been an amazing friend, and she's been going through it for a lot longer than I have, as far as being discredited, ignored, and so on. And she kind of really gave me more of I had a geopolitical landscape, but she gave me also the entertainment landscape to kind of how it was all like connected. And I really appreciated her support. She was from the beginning, and she's in the foreword of my book. She wrote the foreword, which was really generous of her. And she's taken a lot of heat professionally for speaking up on my behalf, and been, basically with her creative projects have been ignored because she took a position of supporting me. So Rose McGowan is very consistent with supporting survivors, and I love her commitment and her bravery and audacity to call out the system and to call it what it is. It's become a cult. And when America becomes a cult, it's hard to break through with any truths.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because she does talk about the entertainment side. And so during the election, we actually broke some news that kind of seemed somewhat innocuous at the time, but then we realized how big of a deal it was, which is that CAA was basically like crushing anyone who was not going to support the politicians that they had on their in their agency. And I don't know if a lot of you all know, but Biden is actually a CAA client. Anderson Cooper being another one, Charlemagne the God being another one. These people who you may think would hold someone accountable just ignored what we saw from people like Joe Biden. And when I thought about Rose McGowan's interview, where she basically was outing CAA for protecting Harvey Weinstein, and then you begin to look at what we're seeing on the politics side, which I would consider very much so Biden, damn near a political version of Harvey Weinstein. You saw CAA coalesce around Biden to protect him in a similar fashion that we saw them protect Harvey Weinstein. Now, in your book, you have a cover of a horse. Now, I love riding horses. I've only ridden twice, but they're dope. So, but tell us your special connection that you have with horses.
Well, I love all animals, and I've done a lot of volunteer work and work with animal rights and with trying to change legislation to protect them, be it the animals in our oceans or on land. And I find a particular connection to nature, and that helps heal me. And I would recommend survivors find their own way of healing, but that's one of the ways I heal, is to go into nature and to ride my horse, or to just be with my horse and the herd, so to speak. And they're very healing. They're, equine therapy is actually a thing. And I've actually volunteered and helped with children and veterans from war who have been traumatized, and volunteered and helped with them and their recovery.
That's amazing.
And yeah, my horse's name is Charm. I adopted him, and he's now 6 years old. He's amazing. And, when you're with a horse, you have to pay very close attention. You have to be in the moment, because they're very in the moment. So you have to come correct, and you have to be, alert, because that's a 1,000-pound animal, and they wouldn't mean to hurt you, but so it's a very a way to kind of get that place where you're thinking about where you are and what you're doing, and you're very grounded rather than
mindful, right? Being very mindful. Yeah, because if you let go of them reins, I'm trying to tell you, you're gonna be going for a different kind of ride.
On the senses, they have their parasympathetic system tends to match ours, and that's why there's a healing with them, because our brain actually and their brain actually kind of work together. Our rhythm kind of works together.
Wow.
So that's why they're used for therapy, because they can actually have a calming effect. if there's no drama with the ride, and there can be, that, but
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, humans are, we got drama with humans, so if they match us that closely, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But so in your book, you detail the trauma you've experienced, whether it be from your father, the father of your daughter. I mean, it seems like you've dealt with a lot of trauma specifically from men, basically at this point your entire life. How have you been able to move past that? 'Cause I know a lot of women probably are dealing with very similar things right now, especially given what we just experienced during quarantine, which is a lot of people were locked up with their domestic violence assaulters. And I'm sure a lot of women are curious to hear your thoughts on how you get past this trauma.
No one's ever asked me that. That's such a great question. I grew up in a family of all brothers, and my brothers are the most amazing people. And my older brother Michael died, and I write about that and how close I was to him. But they were so gentle and kind to me that I know that behavior is not endemic to all men, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, it's affected my ability to trust, and it also made me look at my own boundaries and what I'm willing to accept from men and allow in my life. So, I've tried to integrate the trauma, the complex trauma, and come out of it with keeping my basic nature, which is to be open and trusting and loving. And, maybe someday again, I'll have a relationship with, a guy again. Right now I'm not dating anyone. But and right now, because the way I'm in the media, it's probably not, probably men find that very fun.
Similar. It's okay. I get you.
A little bit, but once I get past that, but going back to your question regarding domestic violence, it's really our culture has really allowed that to be a systemic, that lack of respect. So I don't think that incarceration works. I think education works. And I think Malcolm X said something similar to that about education is what works, not, so San Diego model of domestic violence response is more of a community-based, holistic, where it surrounds the family, so that, we're trying to figure out, why does the perpetrator do that? It's about power and control. So why are they behaving in that way? And how can that behavior be modified? And I don't think that just, putting people in prison is the answer. I think
it probably will make it worse, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And actually perpetuates the violence.
Yeah, and I mean, not for nothing, but let's be honest, right? We're seeing our politicians not only get away with it, but seemingly get rewarded all the way to the presidency. You have, I think what it said, that 70% or 80% of all cops have committed domestic violence or have been reported for it. And that's just, let's be honest, the ones we know about. Right. And it does, and obviously none of those people are going to be put in jail, right? I think we can unfortunately safely say that. So I would agree. I think therapy and helping people find the root causes of that anger, that in that necessity to exercise their power and control through violence or sexual assault. We have to figure that out. We have to start figuring that stuff out, because this is the case with what most issues, right? That end up doing harm to others because of something we have not dealt with in our own past. So I agree with you 100%.
And it's barriers, right? Like barriers to access to justice is one barrier I face personally. And I haven't had access to justice, right? That's been denied to me. And in domestic violence cases, there's things denied, like transportation, money. I think poverty and class have a lot to do with, addressing some of the issues of the systemic problem. Not to say, domestic violence crosses all socioeconomic and cultural lines. But what I mean is that I think poverty exasperates, the problem.
No, every problem, 100% of the time gets worse. If you take away people's money to be mobile, to get out of there. Because right, so domestic violence is oftentimes perpetuated because people can't escape their abuser because they don't have the money to. So there's a lot of, you're right, absolutely. Poverty does exacerbate that. Now, A lot of people have said that you have been loyal to your party. Why would you be loyal to a party that didn't back you? In this particular case, would be the Democratic Party. What would be your response to that?
I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm not a Republican.
That's what I thought,
Yeah, I'm an independent. So I left the Democratic Party. I don't know if they noticed, but I said bye a while ago. But they, the Democratic Party, I've watched it get more and more, and maybe it always was, and I just wasn't paying enough attention. But it just seems more corrupt the last few years, and to me, that's my opinion. But both parties have kind of merged into one, in my view, and we're just like a corporate oligarchy. There's other countries, that keep their oligarchs in line. America is not one of them. We're letting our oligarchs run amok. And this is what happens. America is what happens when you let the oligarchs run amok. There needs to be first, let's just start with the basic. Jeff Bezos needs to pay some taxes.
Just $1. Can we get $1?
Needs to be some investment into your community so you have a healthy, educated workforce. And what's happening is all these progressive promises that were made about $15 minimum wage, which should really be $26 based on the cost of living, ending student loan debt, Medicare for all, ending rape culture, all of those promises have flown to the wayside. And now they're giving Band-Aids, like a moratorium on evictions until October. And holding,
and not even for everybody, it's for like a very select few. It's targeted
for very select. And then how do you deal with the enforcement of that, right? So what they're doing is they're just virtue signaling and sending out these empty promises in the form of bills that will have no bite because there'll be no enforcement. Mm-hmm. So when you watch this $1 trillion infrastructure bill come, watch how much real systemic change is really in there.
Yeah, and I'm scared to read it. I'm scared to read it.
Yeah, because a lot was taken out that would have benefited the working class. And sadly, those, so we need to keep holding our politicians not as celebrities, but as people who work for us and need to be held accountable. And I like AOC, some of her ideas, I disagree with others, but she's not really moving forward on the progressive agenda. She's sort of being absorbed into the machine. And people are yelling and screaming about that. And she gets mad at the critique. Mm-hmm. I don't like misogynistic critiques, but let's hold her accountable to hold up the progressive ticket that she ran on. That's all.
Exactly. At the end of the day, we're the ones supposedly paying their bills, right? And seems like their checks come on time, every month, even when they're on vacation. And so I think that we're the boss, and generally speaking, the boss gets to make the rules, and it doesn't seem like that's been the case over the last several years. So I 100% agree with you. I just believe all politicians should be held accountable 100% of the time. And if you can't stand the heat, then get out the kitchen. You shouldn't have ran to begin with. So Tara, please, really quick before we get you out of here, where can people find your book at?
You can find it at Reade, Reade, author.com. And you can find it in your local bookstore and ask for it. And The Evil Empire of Amazon. And I hate to give that out, but that is where it is. But, and then I'm working on the audiobook right now. And I'm also working on a novel that called The Last Snow Tiger, and that should be out soon, coming, hopefully fall, winter. And then a podcast that will be coming soon in September.
Oh.
The Politics of Survival with Tara Reade. And I've been fortunate enough to work with RT on that.
Dope. So. Good stuff. Make sure y'all go.
We're happy to have you. This is awesome.
I'm hyped. I'm really excited. RT's definitely been some organization that I've learned a lot from. It kind of expanded my horizons, and I've seen how they've taken journalists who have kind of just been disaffected by the mainstream media here, and people like yourself who want to tell the truth and get blackballed specifically because of that. And they give us a platform to tell that truth, especially those who have experiential knowledge, like the experience that you've had or the experiences that I've had, either as a journalist or a black man or a consultant or whatever. So I'm excited. Shout out to RT. Thank you all for bringing me on. And y'all go make sure to cop Tara's book right now. If you were there, go to a bookstore, preferably go to a bookstore. If you have to, I guess, go to Amazon, but go to the bookstore first. Thank you so much, Tara, for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. Oh, really quick, can you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Telegram. Just look up Tara Reade Author, and you can find me on Instagram the same way. And then for Twitter, it's at Reade Alexandra. So Reade Alexandra. And just look up Tara Reade. You can find me. I'm there. I'm on Twitter almost every day.
Yeah, I know.
Or I have someone who helps one of my supporters. But thank you so much again for having me on. And, you know, let's hope that there is some justice regarding Cuomo, and Biden's next.
Yeah, that's what I would love to see happen. And for everybody else, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share it. Don't forget to subscribe. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.